I don't know if you have ever experienced this in clinical practice, but I've seen two different types of clients come to me and explain what's been happening with their healing journey. The first client comes and says something along the lines of, about this many years ago, I started experiencing this, this, and this, and then, I did this happened and I tried this, but then I started experiencing this, this, and this. And they really talk about kind of how they've observed shifts and changes in their body, maybe symptom expression, symptom changes, maybe getting better, getting worse, and kind of tell me a nice little timeline about what's going on, what's been going on in their bodies. And then I've got there's this other subset of clients, and this is not a judgment on these individuals, but these are clients who have actually claimed an identity to their diagnosis. So clients who say, I have mycotoxin illness, I have Lyme disease, I have Hashimoto's, I have diabetes, I have. And just knowing what I know about water inside of our bodies, the water, remember, inside of the bodies is a liquid crystalline state. And liquid crystals are antenna. They are hearing information. They are sensing, picking up vibrational information all the time. And words are absolutely vibrational information. And so as that body is hearing these words, as that person is claiming an identity and saying those things, the body is not, the water is picking it up, and that's not going to optimize the body's own self-healing capabilities. Remember, water is responsive and can do things like change receptors so that they all of a sudden can become appropriately active or deactivated. It can change gene expression. So it's not the gene itself that changes in order to express, it's the water surrounding the DNA that can open up binding sites for transcription and then or close them back up, right? So it's the water that's responsive here. And when we are in a continuous state of talking about our bodies being in a state of dis-ease or illness and claiming an identity to it, it's very challenging to get the body to move the needle towards healing because it's responding continuously to those thoughts and those words. Now there's an additional layer. And again, I don't think this is a judgment on these individuals because a lot of these clients have come from a place of a random assortment of symptoms where they went through the allopathic route of trying to figure out what was going wrong. And then they went through the more functional medicine route of where they were trying to figure out what was going wrong. And so finally, maybe they get a diagnosis, right? They get a diagnosis of Lyme disease, and then they join the 3 or 4 Lyme support groups on Facebook because that's where they know they can go, where people understand what they're going through. And maybe, just maybe, these people in these support groups have suggestions and strategies that they could apply that will support the client as well. Now, again, not a bad thing to find community. However, I've had many clients whose healing has been hindered because they not only claimed an identity to their diagnosis, but they were very much involved in these support groups and hearing about other people's problems all the time in relation to these diseases or these symptoms or these diagnoses. And so I find it becomes quite an interesting conversation with clients to get them to shift their mindset away from their diagnosis and what's going wrong into what's happening in or into what their body feels like in a state of thriving health. And it can be very, very challenging for clients who have been on 10, 15, 20-year long healing journeys or more for that matter, to start to think about how their body feels in a state of health. But that is part of what I teach my clients. That's part of what I teach in my practitioner trainings, is to get clients away from that mindset of claiming an identity to their disease and more into the mindset of what their body feels like when it's thriving. And there's different exercises and strategies we can go about to help clients stay more towards guiding their mindset towards that thriving state of health. And so, it's a seemingly small thing, the language that one uses to describe their condition or their symptoms. However, it can make a vast difference when it comes to a client whose trajectory is moving towards thriving health versus a client whose trajectory improves a little and then bounces back into the disease, thrives a little and then bounces back into the disease. So I really want you as a practitioner to think about how your clients are using their words to claim an identity to their diagnoses. In addition to this, in terms of claiming an identity to the diagnosis, I also find clients who, when they start to picture their brain in or picture their body in a thriving state of health, it gives them something that they can focus on and express gratitude towards, knowing that their body is every day getting closer and closer to that status of health. That's such a huge thing for them to focus on, because otherwise, when I have a client come back to a client or to a follow-up session, if I can ask questions in a couple of different ways. And I can say, so how is your body feeling today? And the clients who have been more focused on that, reaching towards that thriving status of health, they'll say things like, I'm noticing a small shift in my energy in the morning. I'm no longer as bloated during the day, although I do still feel a little bit of gas and constipation. I'm no longer bloated to the same extent. My sleep is a little more restorative. I'm not waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning every single night like I used to. So those clients notice the small little wins, and it's those small little wins that we stack onto each other, one after the other, that allows that client to continue to go towards thriving health. However, when I get the client and I say, how's your body been feeling? And I get I'm still bloated. I still have constipation. I still this is wrong. I still have, this. And again, it could be very much happening in this person's body. It could be very much something that they're still experiencing. But if I can get them to start to notice the small wins and connect those small wins towards this thriving state that their body can heal and get to, it can make all the difference in the world. So it's one of those things that I think is underrated when it comes to helping clients even start out on the right foot on a healing journey with you as a practitioner. And so, speaking of practitioners, my practitioner mentorship program registration opens in just 3 days. So this is a small, limited group of practitioners who I get to work with for 10 weeks straight to help them lay the foundations that I talk about when it comes to light and exclusion zone water and mindset and mitochondrial support and breath work, and how nature can literally bring someone's body into a state where it can finally heal and thrive. And so, in conjunction with this whole idea of mindset, I want you to be aware of that is one of the very first things that I love to teach in this practitioner mentorship program. Again, registration opens in 3 days, because it literally can make the difference between a client who starts to notice these small wins and pulls their body, collapses their reality. That's quantum physics, right? Collapses their reality towards that status of thriving health, versus the client who may be stuck in that roller coaster of a little improvement and then drops back into full symptoms, little improvement and then drops back. Got to recognize those little improvements and build on them in order for true healing to actually take place.